Let's call this committee of the whole meeting for September 3rd, 2024 to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Alderman Barrero.
Here.
Alderwoman Garza.
Here.
Alderman Masiacos.
Present.
Alderman Donnell.
Here.
Alderman Franco.
Here.
Alderman Seville.
Here.
Alderman Tolliver.
Here.
Alderwoman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Bug.
Here.
Alderwoman Vade.
Here.
Alderman Lash.
Present.
Alderman Warman.
Here.
Mayor Irvin's present.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of
moved.
August 2024?
Second.
There's been a motion made by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Lash. All in favor? Motion carries by voice vote. Mr. Muhammad, do we have any mayor's report presentations today?
Yes, sir. Mayor, excuse me. This week, September 2nd through 6th, is National Payroll Week. And of course, we love our paychecks, and we owe it all to the 6 amazing ladies of our payroll division. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for the work that you do. We appreciate it. We're going to ask the mayor to come down, joined by Chris Minnick, Linda Reed of our finance department. Founded in 1996, National Payroll Week coincides with the week of Labor Day and highlights the achievements and partnerships between America's employees, payroll professionals, and various government programs and agencies. During National Payroll Week, Payroll.org celebrates paydays and honors and celebrates the hard work and dedication of America's workers and the payroll professionals who ensure our checks are accurate and on time for millions of employees. The official slogan for Payroll Week is America Works because we're working for America. Another round of applause for our payroll division. We're going to ask them to join us. They process paychecks for 1,000 plus employees, 30,000 checks per year, and they've implemented this year an automatic payroll timekeeping system. And we're going to ask the mayor as he takes the proclamation, and joined by Linda Reed and Chris Minnick, to welcome payroll supervisor Aaron Miller. Come on down. Big round of applause. Candace Adams is in here. Araceli Sanchez, Jocelyn Marmolejo, keep the applause going, Candy Ruiz, and Alicia Alcaraz. Yes. Thank you. We're going to ask the mayor, first Linda and Chris, if you'd share a few words about this team. You guys can come on the other side of Linda, a couple of you.
Thank you to the council for this opportunity to recognize these amazing group of ladies. They do a tremendous job, and as Clayton alluded to, the implementation of our new software system is above and beyond what they're already doing, processing payable. So everybody continue to get paid while they've worked their butts off getting this new system up and running and training all our employees. So I could not be more proud to have them on my team.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to echo what Linda said. This is a very dedicated and professional and knowledgeable group of people that come together to make sure that everybody gets paid on time, gets paid accurately, and that they help keep the money flowing so that everybody can enjoy the fruits of working, the more tangible fruits, I guess, of working for the city of Aurora. And I would also like to extend a personal and heartfelt thanks to all of them for their dedication, professionalism, all the hard work, all the questions, and most of all the patience that they exhibited during the automated timekeeping and time and attendance system that was put in a little earlier this year. So now every employee in the city of Aurora fills out an automated timesheet that is electronically processed through the payroll system. It should reduce our errors, increase our efficiencies, and increase the productivity of the division. So thank you to all of you. I appreciate all the extra time and effort that you put in.
You know, I'd like to read this proclamation for National Payroll Week, September 2nd through the 6th, 2024. Whereas the American Payroll Association and its more than 20,000 members have launched a nationwide public awareness campaign that pays tribute to the nearly 150 million people who work in the United States and the payroll professionals who support the American system by paying wages, reporting workers' earnings, and withholding federal employee taxes. And whereas payroll departments collectively spend more than $2.4 trillion annually complying with the myriad of federal and state wage and tax laws. Whereas payroll professionals in the City of Aurora's payroll division play a key role in maintaining the economic health of the City of Aurora's employees, carrying out a long list of payroll duties performed by Aaron Miller, Candace Adams, Alicia Alcarez, and Araceli Zuniga, and supported by the city's financial department. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Richard C. Irvin, do hereby proclaim September 2nd through the 6th, 2024, as National Payroll Week in Aurora, Illinois, in full support of the city's payroll division and its integral role in our community. Another round of applause for our payroll team.
Before we take a group picture, I want to honor these ladies. Of course, what they do for us is invaluable. The time that they put in certainly can't be calculated in terms of how much we support you and we thank you. But we would like to present you with the Mayor's Award of Excellence and a small token of our appreciation on behalf of the administration. First, Payroll Supervisor Aaron Miller. Big round of applause.
This Mayor's Award of Excellence is honorably presented to Aaron Miller for your dedicated professionalism in serving the staff of the City of Aurora. Happy National Payroll Week 2024.
Okay. Alicia Alcarez.
Alicia Alcarez also gets the Mayor's Award of Excellence for her dedication and professionalism in serving the City of Aurora staff. Happy National Payroll Week 2024. Let's give her a round of applause.
Araceli Sanchez.
Let's also give Araceli Sanchez a round of applause for her dedication, professionalism, and serving the City of Aurora staff. Happy National Payroll Week. Let's give her a round of applause.
Jocelyn Marmolejo.
Jocelyn Marmolejo is also working hard and dedicated to professionalism and serving the City of Aurora. Happy National Payroll Week to you as well. Let's give her a round of applause.
And Candy Ruiz.
Candy Ruiz is also getting the Mayor's Award of Excellence for her dedication and professionalism. Happy National Payroll Week.
Aaron, if you have any words?
I don't know what I can say about my team. You know, you are what your team is, and if it wasn't for my team, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. We wouldn't be doing as great of work. I can't thank them enough, their dedication. Anytime it's a holiday, weekend, late night, early morning, I never get a no from anybody. Everybody's always willing to jump in and pitch in, so I'm blessed. Thank you, everybody.
Happy National Payroll Week, everyone. We'll do a group photo. Again, we thank our city's payroll division, Aaron Miller, Candace Adams, who couldn't be here today, Araceli Sanchez, Jocelyn Marmolejo, Candy Ruiz, and Alicia Alcarez. We encourage our staff to stop by this week to say hello, to say thanks in person. Another round of applause to our payroll division. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. And as the mayor takes his seat, you know, there's a presentation tonight on affordable housing in Aurora. And tomorrow, we open a major affordable housing project, the Fox Valley Apartments, the second half at Lincoln Elementary School, the former Lincoln Elementary School at 641 South Lake Street, 36 affordable apartments tomorrow at 11:30. So we invite, of course, the council, and of course, our community as we celebrate another milestone. This is our third formerly shuttered school in Aurora that we've reopened this year. 2 as affordable apartments and 1 as a youth center. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That concludes the mayor's report given by Mr. Clayton Muhammad. Before we go on to public comment, I know many of the folks here are here for the presentation. I will want to give you an opportunity to file out before we get on to the regular course of business we have on our agenda this evening. If you want to stay, we'd appreciate you being part of the council meeting. But if you are here just for the presentations that we just saw, I want to give you a chance to head out. All right. Looks like we got a full house of folks hanging out with us today. Let's go on to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
We do, Mr. Mayor.
Will you please read the rules of public comment?
Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the committee of the whole for up to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair for the purpose of maintaining order may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the committee of the whole shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting.
Will you please read the name of the first speaker wishing to offer public comment?
Judd Lofsche.
Right there, brother. Mr. Loss, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'd like to say to all aldermen, thank you for your service, as it can be sometimes a tough, thankless job. I'm here tonight to speak about a couple of issues. First, I'm concerned about the city's finances. Our spending seems like it might be a little out of control. When I was an alderman in 2019, our CFO gave us a presentation that the city was $1.1 billion in debt with unfunded pensions and obligations. I try to make watch most of the council meetings and committee whole meetings online. I don't catch them all, but has there been a recent update? We added $102 million with the casino and the warehouse last year, this year, and maybe next year. If we're considering any major expenditures or bond issuance, let's make sure we have the plans to pay it back. And as you all know, any city-owned property pays 0 property taxes. I'd also like to mention 2 items on tonight's agenda that deal with Scientel Solutions, sale of video equipment to the city. In neither case did the city present or obtain a second bid for these services. However, for the bridge repair, which was over $1 million, there are 3 bids. Why is this standard not applied to Scientel Solutions? I understand that sometimes services can be exempt, but from a transparency and record-keeping standpoint, competitive bids are a must. It establishes there's a defined process that removes biases in the award process. As an informed individual like myself, I could say, oh, Scientel Solutions is the largest campaign donor to the mayor's campaign fund and has Build Our Future PAC. I believe Scientel and its employees has given over $200,000 to the mayor and his PAC. And just recently on August 23rd, while this has been going on, this expenditure, they donated $1,700 to his campaign. This is a very bad look. It's time to make sure we're not digging ourselves into a deep financial hole like Chicago did and Chicago Public Schools. They're going to have to raise taxes or lay people off. We had to do that years back, and it was painful. Or that we leave this debt to our children. No audit was posted for 2023, only the 2022 audit. I asked our CFO to post that update so we can read it, because I did see in 2022 we were over $800 million with debt and bond obligations. As Aurora residents, we demand and deserve transparency and more fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, call the next speaker.
Luis Hernandez.
Mr. Hernandez, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Yes. Good evening to everybody. My concern today is like a comment, like a celebration. Like last year, I have an experience that I don't even like it. That celebration is going to be for the independence of Mexico. That till 4 o'clock in the morning, a lot of people come in and making a lot of noise, a lot of music, traffic, fighting. I was living in the 415 East Galena Boulevard. Okay, I don't see any cops or any officers trying to stop it to control the traffic. To me and to other people, they need to go to sleep, work in third shift, and need to go to work to the next day. I don't think so that's nice. What we do, what we do is while we celebrate Independence Day of United States, what we do is a lot of people come in and celebrate in peace, drinking, music, wait for the flag to go up, fireworks, and what happened after that? We living in peace, we go home, relax, no noises, leave everybody sleeping because they need to work. They need to go next day. So I don't know if it's something that we can do about it. Also, I think so. I don't know if it's a rules that the flag it had to be a certain size. When it's a big size of the flags, and I don't see any control of that. Okay, and plus it's not just the celebration of Mexico. It's another. I think it's another country that celebrate the same day. So it's my question is, or my concern is, if it's something that had to be done to control the noise, even with the mufflers too from the cars, they're making a lot of noise, with the horns of the cars, with the loud music, with people screaming, yelling, okay, traffic, and all the city of Aurora. The most part I was in New York Street in Galena. I don't even see, because I was not down in downtown, because I was kind of like, what's going on with those people? I can look like a funny guy because I'm Hispanic, but I grew up here. This is my country. I love the United States. I love the way we live in peace, and we respect everybody, and we had to respect everybody when they need to go to work. So this is what I come here today, because it's coming the day. And it's the only thing I got right now. I have another one, but I know I had like same thing like me. I had to respect others. They need to have time to talk. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, does that conclude the public speakers?
It does, Mr. Mayor.
Let's go on to the next portion of the agenda, committee reports. Chairwoman Patty Smith, can you give the Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee report, please?
Certainly. The Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee met on August 28th, 2024, and we reviewed the following items. Item number 24-0612, an ordinance approving an amendment to a plan description for the Fox Valley East Plan Development District for property located at 4389 Fox Valley Center Drive. Consent?
No objections, I'm going consent.
24-0613, a resolution approving a revision to the final plan for the property located at 4389 Fox Valley Center Drive for a kennel with outdoor pins and runs.
Question.
We have
Alderman Buck.
presentation if anyone would like it.
I don't need a presentation. I just, it talks about the number of pets they're going to have out there, dogs. I just want to know what kind of sound barrier or something they're going to have for the other businesses there. That's all I question.
They have Hooters right next door. That's their sound barrier.
Okay.
Staff.
How the Hooters patrons feel about that. I love some
Tell
red
me I'm wrong.
wings.
The petitioner is here, and he can kind of go into that a little bit too. They do have a 8-foot fence that they are putting up for the outdoor pens to help buffer. We did ask them to put in some additional landscaping also along the Hooters side. As you know, that area is a lot. The majority of that area is automobile uses. So between the automobile uses and their doors up and their equipment going, I'm thinking that this is not going to have very much of an effect on the noise that's out there. Plus, it's right on on pretty much very close to Route 59 and McCoy, so you have all that traffic from the noise too.
Yeah, I would love to hear from petitioner.
Sure.
I mean, if I
Can the
think
petitioner approach?
the outside kennel said they could have up to 100 dogs outside. You get 100 dogs barking at the same time. I
Yep.
mean, when I'm going to Chick-fil-A, I'll be able to hear it.
Sir, can you state your name? I think Alderman Patty Smith already suggested that with Hooters next door, there wouldn't be, there's already barking going on at Hooters, so I don't think they would, they would be affected by the noise. But tell us how you guys are going to block the noise from everybody else other than Hooters.
Yeah, my name is Zach Blair. I'm an attorney with the firm of Rosenova and Whitaker, located at 445 Jackson Avenue, Suite 200 in Naperville. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner, Prima Cart Inc., and the petitioner's principals, Mike and Beth Carter. And yes, there have been some studies done about the decibel levels. We don't believe it's a concern. There's a similar location in Carroll Stream that's been open for approximately 2 years, that's located proximately in a residential neighborhood. Absolutely no concerns there regarding noise and odor, and they're not situated in high-intensity use like this particular property is situated. Again, along that eastern corridor where there's a lot of automotive uses with garage doors opening and closing, horns honking, tools, radios, people yelling, and again, with respect to the Alderwoman's comment with the Hooters and the location of the proximity to McCoy Drive and Route 59. We believe that the traffic will drain out any potential noise. They do have again, additional landscaping to meet the city's code requirements, along with an 8-foot fence. And again, the outdoor area will not only be used seasonally, so we believe that there is a very minimal to no impact based upon the changed use here.
Okay. Well, I mean, will all the dogs be let out at the same time? Some of the dogs? How's that going to work?
Yeah, so hi, this is Mike Carter. I'm the owner of the franchise. So each of the groups of dogs are sorted by kind of size and temperament. So there's not like big barky dogs with little dogs, things like that. And they're always supervised when they're outside with a handler. So if a dog starts barking or is unruly, they'll bring him back in and kind of isolate him in one of the indoor runs. And you know, the dogs normally when they're out don't bark that much because a bark is kind of a stimuli response to being bored, you know, seeing something that they want to get at, things like that. So having a supervisor out there with them at all times during the day, you know, helps keep that noise level down.
Excellent. Thank you.
Alderman Lesh?
Just a very brief nuanced question. Is the fence see-through, or is it?
No, it's vinyl,
Okay.
white vinyl.
Thank you.
Any other questions? With no objections, I'm going to consent.
Mr. Mayor, that is all we have for the BZ&E committee.
Thank you very much. Chairman Franco, can you give the Finance Committee, please, report,
Yes,
please?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met on August 29th, 2024, and reviewed the following items. 24-0493, a resolution authorizing Director of Purchasing to adopt new unit prices for the billing of water meters and meter accessories.
Consent.
This new unit pricing is necessary as the costs have increased significantly.
No objections, I'm going to consent.
Next one is 24-0510, resolution authorizing agreement for administrative services with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for HMO, PPO, Value HSA, Group Health, prescription benefits management, flexible spending, dental, vision, COBRA, and stop-loss plan administration for a period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Consent.
Per the market analysis from Assured Partners, it was concluded that Blue Cross Blue Shield provided the best comprehensive plan for the price.
Alderman Lesh?
Thank you, Mayor. I watched the Finance Committee meeting on this, so I only have just a few questions. But one of the questions that wasn't asked is I just want to make sure everything's going to BCBS and there will be no Cigna option anymore. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Alicia Lewis, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Okay. And then are there any increases in copays or deductibles?
No.
And I think that you guys talked about this as a 1-year sort of trial contract, but you mentioned also during the finance committee that there'll be a 3% administrative cost escalator. If it's 1 year, how does that work?
So it's a one-year contract, and actually Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't go into a, guarantee contract past 1 year. And so for HMO, the cost is going to stay the same. There will not be an increase in premiums, so either to the city and or to the employees for HMO. However, with the PPO and the high deductible plan, there will be a 3% increase. So that also impacts the retirees pre-65.
Okay, and that was item 604. I had a question about that too, which I can ask now or hold off till that agenda item.
Might as well answer it now. What's your
So
question?
that was about the approval monthly rates for Medicaid retirees, and how much of a cost increase per month or per year is this going to be for retirees? That's agenda item 604.
So how much is the cost? The
In-
rates
increase.
are, so the rates are in the item 260604. So per month, I don't have the actual rate sheet, but I think it's approximately $2,000
Per month or
month.
per year?
per month.
No,
Okay.
Additional, no. Ask the question one more time. I don't think she understood it.
Just how much of a cost increase?
Increase, just additional.
3%.
3%?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's wondering how much money does that equal to, that 3%, to an average $2,000 a month?
The 3% is an increase from this year's rate. I don't know what the rate is off
Gotcha.
the top of my head.
Okay.
But that attachment is with the item.
Okay. And has there been any concern from staff over this? I don't even know what percent of people were moving over from Cigna to PCBS.
Yeah, actually, no, we did a presentation to the unions. It was well received. There wasn't any pushback. We're actually very pleased with what we're able to bring to the table. Even the modest increases that we'll realize for next year are lower than the market rate.
Sure. And inflation this year is 4%, so 3% I can understand, but in the future that might be an issue. No further questions. Thank you, Mr.
Any other questions, comments? All right, so let's just make sure we're just breaking it down. Do me a favor, read that item one more time. Alderman Franklin, just know what we're dealing with as far as this particular item that we're going to be voting on.
So
or
this was
passing it.
24-0510. It was a resolution authorizing agreement for administrative services with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for HMO, PPO, and Value HSA Group Health, prescription benefits management, flexible spending, dental, vision, COBRA, and stop-loss plan administration for a period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
This particular item, without no objection, this item will go on consent. Or read the next item.
Next one is 24-0603, a resolution establishing COBRA insurance monthly rates effective January 1st, 2025, December 31st, 2025.
Consent.
No objections, item will go on consent.
Next one is 24-0604, a resolution establishing health and dental insurance monthly rates of contributions for pre-Medicare retirees effective January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Consent.
Unfinished? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Alderman Burrows.
I requested some information. I'm just waiting for it, so.
All right, we're going to put that on unfinished. Is there any particular information that was germane to the rest of the council, or just something?
No, just this one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll put that on unfinished. Go ahead. Can you just, so we're all aware, so was it a question that involved that particular issue? You want to ask that question just so I know, and we can make sure staff provides that appropriately. What was the question?
Yeah, the question was, what is the cost of the insurance that we're paying in comparison to what the retirees are paying? So
What is the cost of the currently employed based on their return?
No, the health insurance.
So what I'll do is I'll attach the sheet. What Alderman is asking is what's the actual cost to the city versus what the cost is, what the employee's
How you split it.
contribution
Right,
is
gotcha,
going
gotcha.
to be.
All
So I will attach that to the items, and all of the council will receive that
Thank you.
document. You're welcome.
Because I'm sure most of the council have probably been interested. That was a good question.
Thank you.
We're going to put that unfinished. Next item.
Next item is 24-0610, resolution authorizing Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois for group health care services and rates for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Consent.
No objections. Item going consent.
Next one is 24-0615, an ordinance authorizing 100% principal forgiveness loan agreement, public water supply loan program, home rule entity for the lead service line replacement project. The
Consent.
city is requesting $3,027,000 in a forgivable loan for the project, which is the maximum allowed.
No objections. Item going consent. I'm sorry, Alderman Lash.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came up in the finance, but I just had one question about, does the grant money, because we use the census tracts to determine the grant level, does that grant money have to be spent in those census tracts, or can it be spent anywhere as part of the lead line replacement?
Controlled Public Works Director, it has to be spent in the census tracts that we applied for. It was a competitive program statewide. The federal funds filter through the IEPA, and that the competition involved those specific census requirements. And so we scored very highly and got one of the largest awards, so very happy.
Excellent. And do you know roughly how many homes are going to be able to take care of? I think it's 3 million.
Somewhere between 300 and 350.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No objections. Item going consent. Next item.
The next item is 24-0616, a resolution authorizing execution of a second amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund Incorporated and the City of Aurora, expanding the FEC expert partner scope of work and to receive the $10,000 stipend upon full execution of the second amendment.
Consent.
No objections. Item going consent.
The next one is 24-0625, a resolution authorizing Director of Purchasing to purchase CCTV devices from Scientel Solutions, 2021 North Yola Road, for $189,305.25. This is a request for TV devices to be installed at the Animal Control Building. Currently, there are no cameras. APD recommends installation to deter threats and be less susceptible to theft and vandalism.
I know we're going to put this on unfinished, but before we do, can we have someone from staff step up for a second and speak to this particular issue?
And Mr. Mayor, may I add, as I look in our packet, it does say that there were competitive bidding.
I know. But I need someone from staff to step up and talk about the process. Is there someone from IT here? Mr. Anderson, how are you doing, sir?
Good, Mayor.
All right, just talk a little bit about this item and the fact that they were competitively bid and that Scientel actually won the bid.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Anderson, City WCIO. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item was competitively bid back in 2021. We had multiple competitors that went through our standard marketplace process that we've used for years now, since probably 2019, I believe we started using the marketplace process. And it was competitively bid both for the network components and for the cameras and access controls, which are germane to this resolution. It was a 5-year contract with 2 option years, I believe. We can check on that, but that's what it is. So what we're doing is standardizing on one set of cameras, access controls, network devices throughout the city. And that's what the contract was for, and that's why we're out here, and that's why we come back. So we've systematically been going throughout the city, replacing, I believe it was 4 different access control systems we had, which meant that some employees had to carry multiple cards to get into certain locations or be let in by others. So then we're standardizing on one set of cameras as well. So, and the back-end control system for that being the Genetec solution. So that's why we continue to systematically bring these here. And this one in particular was requested, and we budgeted for that, brought it forward to finance.
And let's talk about why it was requested. So can you state your name, Representative for Animal Control, actually the manager of Animal Control. You introduce yourself and then talk about why you need these cameras.
Yeah, my name is Cameron DeVore. I'm the Animal Control Manager. There's a lot of liability that comes with working animals, both with staff having to interact. Also, animals are left around the building. There's just a lot of things that happen, and we cannot prove exactly what happened, whether it be a staff falls, anything like that. So I'd stress the importance of getting cameras in that building to protect our staff, protect the animals, and protect the public.
Questions, comments on the presentation? There being none, I'm sorry, Alderman Lesh.
Sure. During the committee discussion, there was an allusion to break-ins or the controlled substances. Have we had any break-ins or a loss of controlled substances?
We've never had a loss of controlled substances. We house them as DEA expects us to, so they're double locked down in safes. However, that is always a huge liability issue. So that's always my main concern, thinking on the state and federal level, making sure those things are protected as much as we can. Especially, you know, yes, we can kind of control who comes in the building, but God forbid some sort of controlled substance went missing. We would need to figure out who took it, how it was taken, and without cameras, there's really no way to do that.
And it makes sense that we don't want to wait until something bad happens before we react to it. But talk about what these controlled substances are. We say controlled substance. What exactly are they?
Yeah, so we house quite a bit of different things for the animals. You know, pain medications, sedatives, things like that, that are controlled by the federal government. So, like I said, we do house those as the DEA specifies. But yeah, it's mostly medications and treatments for the animals.
Just a quick follow-up, perhaps for a policy discussion, but as I understand it, it's illegal for a person to take a pet and drop it off at the animal control facility.
Yes.
But a person can let let's say they become unable to take care of their pet. They can let it run in the wild and then, or run around the city, and then we have to send somebody in a van to chase that thing down, which could take several hours and staff time. To me, this policy doesn't necessarily make sense. It would make sense to have some form of drop-off policy.
Hold on 1 second. This has nothing to do with cameras. So this is something we have to talk about later when it's before City Council to consider. But as far as cameras are concerned, does anybody have any questions on the cameras at the animal control? No other questions? I assume this is going to go on
unfinished.
Unfinished? All right, unfinished. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Next item.
Okay. 24-0645, a resolution directing staff to proceed with Phase 1 of a three-phase sustainability plan for the Aurora Civic Center Authority, an amount not to exceed $13.8 million.
All right, there's going to be a presentation on this.
Good evening, Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer. I am joined by Chris Minnick, our Chief Financial Officer and City Treasurer. Also joining is Tim Rader, the Executive Director of ACCA. So what we'd like to present tonight is a update to what was presented at Finance. You will see in your packets everything that we could gather to date that Finance requested. We loaded to your Legistar item. We will also be showing those on the screen. We will show a video, and then Chris Minnick will go into a summary detail of the three-phase plan. We'll also be joined by Tim Rader and Cord Carlson, who gave a brief perspective from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, will also come up tonight to give a little additional information. We will go through everything, and then we will answer questions. I just want to give one high-level reminder, if it did not come out clearly at Finance, and that is that tonight, what you are contemplating for moving forward for City Council approval is Phase 1 of the three-phase plan. That is the only action item that the city is requesting at this time. However, for full transparency and explanation of what we have been doing for many months to come up with this plan, we thought rather than discuss Phase 1 in a vacuum, we would provide you with the entire plan. And then clearly we realize, and we're very happy that we got a lot of people excited about this plan, especially Phase 2. But we did say repeatedly, and we'll say it again tonight, that Phase 2 is coming by the first quarter of 2025. So we continue to do a lot of work, due diligence-wise, on Phase 2, which is actually the CLC. Phase 1 is intended, as part of this three-phase plan, to stabilize ACCA's operations for the rest of 2024 and through 2025. So with that overview, I want to turn it over to our staff, who's going to play the video, please.
I never could have possibly dreamed the expansion that has happened. That just took off. The Broadway series is about to go into its 13th season. The largest subscription-based theater in the country is right here.
I look at River Edge Park and go like, this is what's right in the world right now. It's really cool to be a part of something special like that.
The hard-hitting stories of the Bold series is something you don't get anywhere else. The more that we continue in our trajectory, the more that we're drawing these audiences who are looking for something different.
At first, it seemed like a crazy idea, but we were able to pull off a beautiful, amazing theater that is Stowe Island Theater and an immersive experience.
Paramount's more than a stage, it's a catalyst for change.
Always a great production. Such amazing theater this far out of the city. It's a gem of the community.
And the cool thing is, we're just getting started.
Paramount has compiled a long list of improbable accomplishments. Now, Paramount is embarking on the most ambitious project yet. The City of Lights Center.
God. Wow.
From the entrance on the corner of New York and River Streets, a confection of light and transparency entices you into the expansive lobby.
That inside looks amazing.
Holy cow.
That's ceiling, oh my gosh.
Like that's a bar you see in a cool place in Chicago, not at a concert venue.
Wow, look at the theater.
A stunning 4,000-seat theater that hosts touring musicians, comedy specials, holiday extravaganzas, and more.
Okay, I wouldn't mind working backstage there.
State-of-the-art sound and light systems and LED screens augment the experience. Every seat will provide a spectacular view of the stage with elevated experiences available in VIP suites. And a VIP lounge offers a luxurious space for pre-show, intermission, and special events.
You're going to want to be a part of a group that gets upstairs.
On the top floor, a 600-person event space offers an unparalleled experience for parties, weddings, fundraisers, and so much more, featuring enthralling vistas of downtown Aurora.
That is a gorgeous view.
Floor-to-ceiling windows with that panoramic view. Wow.
Aurora has always had faith in what we can accomplish, and with the city's continued support, we are transforming our community through the power of the arts.
This actually is a case study of what happens when an arts organization and a government body come together and collaborate. It's amazing. We're transforming downtown, we're transforming Aurora, and we're all doing it together.
The City of Lights Center is our biggest dream yet, a magnificent addition to the City of Lights.
Takes my breath away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We can hit pause on that. Just two more housekeeping items from Finance till tonight. With the holiday, we tried to get things together as quickly as we could. Hopefully, I know there were questions posed. We sent all the answers to what we could get to everyone, so hopefully you have those. In addition, in speaking with staff and with ACCA, they would like to host an open house, an informational open house this Thursday at the Meyer Ballroom over at North Island Center. So there will be some postings coming out tomorrow. It'll be at 5 p.m. So I think it'll go 5 to 7 Thursday evening at the Meyer Ballroom. So stay tuned for an actual posting to go out for that. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Minnick, and he'll go into the three-phase proposal.
Thank you very much. When we speak about ACCA's financial performance, there's essentially two phases that we talk about. And COVID really represents, and the shutdown that COVID necessitated really represents kind of the dividing line between the pre-pandemic financial performance, when ACCA enjoyed relatively stable financial operations and break-even financial operations, to small surpluses from time to time. But COVID necessitated a shutdown for approximately 18 months. And after the shutdown, and when the theaters and the facilities and the economy started opening back up again, two main factors really emerged. Number one, patrons were slow to return to the theaters and to the operating venues after operations were allowed to resume. And that's not just a phenomenon that ACCA experienced. It actually happened throughout the theater industry. Secondly, inflation was elevated for a significant period of time, and cost increases throughout the general economy and throughout the supply chain were also present when the economy reopened. However, we have now seen that the attendance has returned largely to ACCA's facilities and is comparable to pre-pandemic levels, but the expenditure structure has increased on a permanent basis. And now ACCA is experiencing some operating deficits. To date, they've been successful filling the gap with subsidies from the City of Aurora along with other public agencies, and the city has provided approximately $11.5 million in ARPA funds and assistance for ACCA. They've also been successful pursuing other grants and financial assistance as well. Recognizing, however, that the current situation is not sustainable in the long term, the administration tasked the staffs of ACCA and the city to work together to develop a long-term financial sustainability plan. What was arrived at is the three-phase plan that appears before you. It's 3 phases and will take approximately 2 to 3 years to implement. The proposed 3-phase plan actually represents 3 separate and distinct phases that will occur over the next 2 to 3 fiscal years. Phase number 1, and again, phase number 1 is the item for which we are seeking formalized approval tonight, and represents $13.8 million in bonding that would occur roughly immediately upon a city council approval. With that bonding and with those bond proceeds, we would do 3 things. Number 1, purchase the parking garage at 2 West New York Street, across the street from the existing casino site. Number 2, reimburse Stolp Island Theater construction costs in the amount of approximately $1.3 million, and then reimburse Riverwalk Promenade Walkway rehabilitation costs in the amount of about $2.5 million. That project is currently ongoing, so the exact amount may vary slightly, but that's in the ballpark. The reimbursement of these expenses would occur very shortly after City Council approval, and we would look to close on the parking garage within a 60-day period. As mentioned a moment ago, Phase 1 will satisfy ACCA's operating needs through 2025. After the implementation of Phase number 1, Phase number 2 would begin. And we would come back in the first quarter of 2025 with a presentation on Phase 2 in its entirety. The highlight of Phase 2 is the construction of the City of Light Center, and at that discussion that would occur during 2025, there would be a detailed and comprehensive presentation on the pro forma study and financial results that are anticipated, as well as the financing plan for the City of Light Center. Additionally, we would discuss the needs for ACCA's operational needs moving forward into 2026, and we would request formalized bonding authority to meet the construction timetable for the City of Light Center, as well as ACCA's Phase 2 fiscal 2026 operating needs at that particular point in time. We do anticipate that we would issue approximately $7 million in bonds related to the financial operational need, and the City of Light Center would probably occur over, we would issue debt over the next couple of years related to the construction timing and the construction draws related to the City of Light Center. We would anticipate that the construction of the City of Light Center would begin somewhere in the second quarter of 2025 with an anticipated opening approximately 2 years later in June of 2027. After the conclusion of Phase 2, we would move forward and bring forward a presentation and discussion of Phase 3. Phase 3 is currently anticipated to consider approximately $4 million in bonding with a contemplated potential purchase of the North Island Center, as well as continued evaluation of the financial performance of ACCA and meeting those operational needs until the opening of the City of Light Center in 2027. On an ongoing basis, we would seek to evaluate and enhance the financial performance and the financial model that ACCA follows. We would seek to enact a system of promotion of city restaurants in conjunction with their performances, as well as comprehensive evaluation of ticket prices in the entertainment market, and also a focus on increased efforts on fundraising and grant opportunities, as well as being able to minimize the expenditure structure through operational efficiencies that we might gain. Additionally, we would seek to maximize the return on city investments while providing financial sustainability, maximizing the food and beverage and sales tax related to restaurant sales, evaluating implementation of a ticket tax, as well as the collection of various parking revenues from additional performances and activities in the downtown. So again, just to recap and going through next steps, today we're requesting a formal approval of the Phase 1 particulars. In specific terms, we're requesting the approval to draft the documents related to $13.8 million in bonding for the purchase of the valet garage, reimbursement of the Slope Island Theater expenses, and the Riverwalk Promenade expenditures. As mentioned and as discussed, the bond itself is not approved with the action that we're asking you to take on September 13th. We will still need to bring those bond documents forward at a future meeting. As mentioned, we did make several adjustments to the Legistar information that was included in the packet. Items such as additional pro forma information, as well as subscription history and projections and attendance projections were all, and history as well, were also included in the Legistar. So with that, I'd be happy to turn it back over to Mr. Alexander.
Wanted Mr. Rader to speak, if have an opportunity.
I have questions.
Before we go on, just want Mr. Rader to continue with the presentation, and then we'll ask some questions after he speaks. Mr. Rader, I'm going to ask you a few questions before you answer, before I ask the last one, which is what will happen if we don't partner in this fashion. Currently, how many people does ACCA and all of the different facilities that you run attract to our downtown and to the city of Aurora as a whole?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, my name is Tim Rader. I'm the CEO of the Aurora Civic Center Authority and 14-year resident of Aurora. Right now, we have about 600,000 people that visit our venues downtown.
In the very near future, when we have the City Lights Center and expand our options, what is your plan? How many people do you expect, and how many shows are you going to run a year?
We would anticipate over 1 million people and well over 1,100 performances per year.
And currently, what percentage of the people that you attract to your performances are actually from Aurora?
14%.
So that means the other
86% come from outside of Aurora. Yep.
Spending money the whole way.
Yeah.
What happens if we don't partner with you in the way that we're talking about in this Phase 1, 2, and 3?
We need to change how we do business. We need to reduce programming and programs activity. What that means specifically is we would take the programs that aren't adding to the margin, the profit margin of ACA, and reduce them or eliminate them. And in specific, we would, like things like our Bold series or our School of the Arts would need to shutter. We would also need to change how we produce our Broadway shows. We probably would not operate River Edge Park as well. Our Broadway shows right now we take a lot of pride in, and that's why they're doing so well. But we would not be able to do the shows that we currently do, and we would not be able to do them in the way that we have been doing them. And what that means is the scenery that we build in our scene shop in Aurora, we would probably not build the scenery. We'd rent a lot of our scenery. The same with the costumes. We'd end up renting and borrowing, and rather than building and employing those that build it. That sort of stuff we'd have to just minimize. We'd have to pick shows that are smaller. We'd have to, and it would mean shrinking. It'd mean shorter runs, fewer performances, fewer staff. That's the only way to really reduce our deficit right now is reducing overhead.
Would that shrink the number of people that come to Aurora to
for sure,
visit?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Your theaters?
And Mr. Mayor, if I can add, Tim,
Sorry,
what effect
Alexandra.
would that have on your subscriptions?
Yeah, we're the only theater that the subscription is not reducing. We'd probably look at something like the Walnut Street Theater in Pennsylvania that had 49,000 subscribers, and when they came out of COVID, they had 19. So, and they're not doing much better today.
But we are the number one.
Yeah.
As far as folks having what is it called? Prescriptions?
Yep. Nope, the largest subscriber base
subscriber
in the nation.
in
Yes.
the entire United States of America.
And we have a slide, Mayor. John, if you can put the subscription slide up, and maybe Tim, if you could talk us through both these slides. First, the subscription one.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you there is basically our subscriptions. And what it doesn't have, you look at the first column from our first season, which was 2011-12, when we had My Fair Lady and Joseph and Hair and Chorus Line. It didn't have the subscriptions the year before. I've been here 14 years. I started June of 2010, and when I started, we actually had 200 and some change subscribers. A subscriber back then was someone that bought 3 or more shows. So we launched our Broadway series in 11-12, and there were 3-week long runs of our Broadway shows, and that's when we got to that 12,500 subscriber number. And we've been building every year, with the exception, as you see, one dip. But we were, that was our in the heights year. It did not perform as well as we liked, and we just, we fine-tuned, and we've been growing a little bit every single season, with the exception of COVID. You look at the kind of the orange color, those are our Bold subscribers, kind of piggybacking on our Broadway subscribers. And we're at the point now that our number of performances, just to give a little really high level, like bird's eye view of where Paramount is. I mean, when I started 14 years ago, we were doing 40, 50 performances a year. We had about 10 staff members, 10 full-time staff members, and a handful of part-timers. And last week we had 26 performances in 1 week, rather than the 40 and 50 that we did the entire year. So that was 26 performances, almost 15,000 people, and over 500 staff working those events. So we're pretty proud of that. And we went from having one functional venue to having 4 theaters that are all running at the same time. And that doesn't even include our School of the Performing Arts or our weddings and our and the Meyer Ballroom. So we have a lot going on. And that has only been possible because of our Broadway season, our Broadway subscription. Those subscribers, we pick shows they want to see, we produce them in a way that is high quality so they want to come back, and then we treat our folks that come to the Paramount like gold. We treat them like family. We treat them like how I would want my mom to be treated if she were alive and she were visiting and seeing a show. It's really important. I mean, our customer service is really, really high. We get the surveys back, and it's, extremely satisfied across the board. And that's what we're proud of. We try to do things so people want to come back. The only worst thing you can do than doing a show nobody wants to see is doing a show that once they see it, they don't ever want to come back. So we work really hard to do really quality theater, and that's what we've invested in, and it shows, because we're in a period where nobody has their subscriber base increasing. We're bucking the trend. I don't know of anyone else except for maybe Tuacahn, that is actually increasing their subscriber base. And they're not anywhere near what we're doing. We're doing something right. But right now, it's more expensive. And we talked about this a little bit amongst each other, that, you know, labor's gone up. We have 5 unions that we work with: the actors union, musicians union, stagehand union, directors union, designer union. All of their wages have gone up every single year. Materials has gone up every single year. It's more expensive. So we're back there selling the number of tickets that we were and bringing a lot of people downtown, but it's more expensive to do it. And that's the gap. The reality is we could eliminate that gap, but it's a dramatic change to our operation, and nobody really wants that. Nobody, I'm saying nobody, I mean, I don't want that. And the mayor's office doesn't want that. So we've been working on a solution, and this is the solution. This is what I believe will eliminate our deficit. And not only does it eliminate our deficit by operating and providing these shows, it's going to give us the ability to even do better than that, because we have, right now we have only Broadway shows on our Paramount stage. We can't fit the Jay Leno's, the Riverdances. We were just approached by Riverdance last week to book them in April of 2026. It was the 17th, 18th, and 19th. This is a year and a half away, more than a year and a half away, and we couldn't make the dates work because we have a Broadway run right at that moment. They could go here, though. They could go to the City Light Center. We could put them in there. And then when they come there, we could send them a postcard or an email for Frozen and say, hey, come to Frozen, or come to whatever holiday show is coming up next. And then once they see Frozen or whatever holiday show, they can get a brochure and say, hey, why don't you be a part of the family, be a subscriber at Paramount. We want you. We want you at the Paramount too, not just at the City Light Center. So this doesn't, we're just getting started. Like, we can expand our runs even longer. We can get to 75,000 subscribers. We can basically double what we're currently doing in the Paramount by cross-promoting and bringing more people to the City of Light Center. It's really an opportunity. It's an opportunity to fix our gap, what's broken. Or there's another way to fix it. I just don't think we want to do that.
Mr. Alexander, can you explain what exactly do all these shows and does ACCA's performances, what does it do for the city of Aurora, and what happens if we lose that?
If I can have John, yeah, thank you, John. So as you can see on this slide, Mayor, exactly to what Mr. Rader just said, there's a direct correlation between subscribers, the number of tickets sold, and the effect on attendance. And as you can see, the attendance, other than the dip, of course, from COVID, has continued to climb. So all of these people, with their great customer service and their data and marketing, know where these folks. So right now, 40% of folks who come to the Paramount dine in Aurora. That's up from 30%.
In downtown specifically.
In downtown. That's up from 30% in the past. A reversal of that, if Paramount constricted and closed and modified, you're going to reverse not only that previous slide of subscribers, but you're going to reverse the number of people coming to the downtown. So we know in COVID, we said this to council, you all agreed, the Paramount NACA was one of the 4 major sources of revenue that completely shut down. So not only was it shut down, but we saw the direct effect on the downtown. And so developers who have contacted us, restaurateurs, prospective bar owners, they all have always talked about the Paramount as being sort of that heartbeat. And especially now we see the increased demand for residential in the downtown. And so people want to leave the situation in Cook County, high costs, high crime, but they want the urban feel and the arts and entertainment culture that we have carefully crafted since 2011. And I want Tim to say this, but I've been around here long enough. Alderman Seville, you have been too, and maybe some others. Do you remember why Tim Rader was hired? Can you tell everybody why you were hired? What was your #1 directive when you were hired?
The board was specifically looking to increase activity at the Paramount Theater, and I had a track record of doing that in my previous jobs.
So these two slides definitively show that not only is Tim, under his leadership, led and done that very successfully, despite the hiccup that was COVID and us coming back, but now here we are, and I talked about this at Finance, at the crossroads, Your Honor. The crossroads is, what are we doing as a city to continue or not the support of the arts and entertainment and this heartbeat that means so much to the businesses, the bars, people who have made significant investment in the downtown. And let me remind you, we don't have a delineation. In our budget, we have, and Chris, you can attest to this, right? We have general fund, we have proprietary funds, food and beverage, all that supports the entire city budget, which benefits the entire city. So the economic activity that ACA drives downtown, it's that rising tide rises all boats, right? And so it's in data and evidence that we've been able to provide. And there's more coming. I realize everybody got very excited on both sides of the ball, which is great to see the political discourse. But we said it, and we're going to say it again, this is just phase one. There's more information coming with detail, with subject matter experts who have done this successfully around the country. That's who ACA has retained. So that information is coming soon. We tried to answer questions today and provide more information. We're happy to follow up on those. We did give you some indication, for example, of what we're planning on doing with the garage. I found out yesterday from Mr. Birchall that when we did an analysis, a professional analysis of the 43 West Galena garage, otherwise known as the Tivoli deck, we also looked at, in July of 23, the New York Street deck. However, because the casino in their agreement is responsible for maintenance, I've got to call into the casino. They've been making annual upgrades, so I want to make sure what their upgrades were match some of the items described before I bring you back a definitive answer. Because one of the questions today was, what's it going to cost every year? What are the plans for 5 years? All great questions, but we need to do our due diligence and make sure of things before we bring it back to you and to the public.
Alderman Smith?
That was a lot.
Yes.
I'm going to focus on phase one, since that's what we're talking about right now. But before I ask those phase one questions, my question about the open forum that you're having on Thursday night, will that cover all 3 phases?
I believe the idea is to have a similar discussion as we're having now. Happy to talk about all 3 phases, but the focus, of course, will be on phase one, since that's the action item proposed right now.
So phase one, the purchase of the garage, the reimbursement for the walkways and the Stope Island area, that will be all done through a bond issuance? Is
Correct.
that correct? And who's paying that bond back? And when will that start? And how that now becomes city debt, correct?
Correct. Those details are still to be worked out on exactly when the timing would begin, but I would anticipate that if we issued the bond in the first or second quarter of 25, that the bond payments would start either at June 30th or December 30th of that year, of 2025. So
Okay.
it would be an element of the 2025 budget.
And what would the impact of that bond be on residents?
On residents, quite frankly, they wouldn't see any kind of an impact to any kind of property tax bills or anything along those lines. We are expecting that we will have some organic growth in our revenues. We would simply absorb that that debt service payment, which would be approximately $1 to $1.1 million in that particular range. Again, depending on where the rates are, we have seen actually that rates are falling a bit at this particular point in time, and the rates are actually lower than if we had started this process, say, 6 months sooner.
Just to be clear, say that one more time. There will be no effect in the property tax rate, meaning the property tax rate will not be increased.
The property tax rate will not be increased.
So our residents will not receive any form of financial impact against them. The impact will be for them, actually, due to this phase one.
Correct.
All right, I've got a million more questions, but I'm focusing on phase one right now, so I will stick with phase one, and I'll move into phase two when we get there.
But just to be clear, in fairness, we did provide some indication where we could on some of the other phases in the questions we sent back, or in the answers we sent
Yes,
back.
and I have read it all very thoroughly.
Thank
And
you.
if you would see what I had in front of me, you would understand that I have.
Thank you.
That's
Questions? Alderman Seville?
Yes, a follow-up to Alderwoman Patty Smith's question. So there'll be no extra revenue stream then? It's all going to be what you call organic? We're not looking at an increase of any user fees or anything like that?
There would be, once the city assumes the ownership of the deck, there is currently a lease existing on the deck that provides about a lease payment of about $14,000 a month. That would be utilized to partially offset the debt service that we would expect to incur. So we would see some lease revenue from the parking deck from the time that that the city assumes the ownership of the garage. Plus, if there were other parking performances, or excuse me, parking in relation to other ACA performances, things of that nature, we would have the opportunity to charge or obtain some revenue from that as well, if there were parking in that deck.
And are we going to be receiving revenue from the Tivoli deck too?
Once the casino vacates,
right?
Because right now they have a lease in there as well.
Yes.
So once they vacate, we will. But back to the valet deck, that's the part of phase one, we will, and I think that was one of the answers, we're currently looking at options. So once it's ours, we're going to look at, we're doing it now, parking rates, but depending on different types of uses. So there will be additional revenue at some point that we will gain from us operating the garage.
But you don't anticipate that fully covering the bond?
No, not, the lease will not in and of itself.
But you haven't really explained where the rest of the money would be coming from other than organically.
Yeah, well, it would, as Mr. Alexandru commented a moment ago, we don't necessarily segregate individual revenue streams and individual revenue sources into debt repayments and into specific purposes as part of the budgetary process. But we would anticipate that there would be additional revenues related to the growth in the sales tax, the food and beverage tax, et cetera.
Okay.
Just
Alderman Burrow?
Yeah, Mayor, I have a question. So to me, the big item here is the parking garage.
That's correct.
That's, parking is a big topic in downtown Aurora. People are always asking about parking and concerned about parking. So it seems to me like it would be helpful to get some information relative to the recent parking study, future projections of parking needs. I think the public needs to know that we need this parking deck, with or without the rest of these phases. And that is something I think we would all be interested in finding more information about.
And Alderman, we are finalizing the downtown parking study. This has been incorporated into that. Let me just remind everybody, and I'm going to correct myself, I think I was too conservative at finance when I talked about the current costs out there in the market for constructing brand new parking decks. Instead of 30 to 40,000, it's more like 40 to 50,000 per space. So to replicate what we're getting back for 10 million, it would cost us anywhere from 22 to 26 million dollars to build a brand new deck. And so remember also that the casino property currently, the casino will demolish and provide us with a pad-ready, developable-ready site. The amenity of a parking garage is a huge benefit to any development. So that's there. The connection under New York Street will be maintained. And so that is another amenity that we're getting back long-term. But also, I think ultimately this parking garage will benefit from the City of Light Center. So when there are performances at the City of Light Center, this garage will be utilized as well. When there are performances at River Edge Park and any of the current restaurants or bars that are coming, also utilized. So we have an outstanding group at Motor Vehicle Parking Services, our division, who know how to run decks, run garages. We have the systems in place. So it made sense for us to control 3 garages instead of 2 and not have to build a brand new one as part of this deal. So we are getting back, and the appraisal was loaded also to your Legistar, so it's about a $10 million adjusted now, and so that's what we're getting back. And it was important for us in this plan to get things of value back that we can actually utilize.
But to Alderman Burrow's point, and I think it's a very, very good one, to have information about the parking study and the value of this parking garage to our entire parking scheme or plan downtown.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Franco.
So I mentioned this before, and I believe we still have some ARPA funds available. I know there's certain restrictions on ARPA funds, but as I look at the phase 1, I'm just wondering if we could use or should use, or if you have it earmarked for something else, some of that money towards the reimbursement of the Riverwalk Promenade walkway.
We're currently evaluating exactly what we might be able to utilize the remaining ARPA funds. There aren't many left, actually. We utilized the substantial portion of them as time has gone along for a multitude of purposes, and it just didn't go to ECHO. We received approximately $35 million in ARPA funding, and it's gone to a variety of projects. You are correct. We have to be somewhat careful in terms of acquiring assets with that funding. There are also some other additional guidelines that we need to comply with, but perhaps for the reimbursement of the expenditures related to the rehabilitation of the pathway, perhaps that makes some sense, and we'll keep an eye on that and keep looking for it. If we were able to do that, it would simply reduce the amount that we would need to bond in total.
And there's a time limit we have to use that by. It's coming up, right? Is it the end of this year?
We have to commit it by.
Committed by the end of, I think. this
24.
year. 24, right.
Yeah, and you spend it by the end of 26.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Question, Alderman Lesh, and I'll come back to you, Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think it's an excellent idea to have a Thursday open house. I've taken a number of calls on this, and I know that the timeline of getting this over the holiday weekend and then coming back, you guys having to face all of our questions, and I haven't had time to digest it, and I know I watched a Finance Committee meeting. There's others that are struggling with digesting it, so I think that's excellent. You know, I also wanted to share with the, as we go back to talk about the parking garage, the rest of the council knows that in addition to the $11.5 million in ARPA funds, there's ACA also received $10 million in Save Our Stages back in 2021. So one of the things I want to see is how we spent that, because I was kind of thinking that both the Stope Island Theater and the promenade might be covered in those things, but I do I do think that we need to take a slower approach on this. And as it comes to the parking garage specifically in just phase 1, the emergency that I see, or the urgency, would be the cost of the Stope Island Theater and the promenade. for me, the parking garage, the way I'm looking at this, the casino's still using it, we're under contract, so we can't even use it even if we buy it today, right? And we won't necessarily need it because this new facility, if we go forward with it, won't be ready to use for another 2 years. So the casino's gonna be there using it for 2 years, and we don't necessarily have a plan to pay for it with ticket prices quite fleshed out. So I would be okay advancing this with just the 3.8 million there for the promenade and Stope Island Theater, but I have a concern over the larger package with the
Do you have any
$10 million
questions?
for the garage.
You have any questions?
I'm just sharing my views with
All right,
the
Alderman
rest
Smith.
of the council. I do have one question.
Hold on, Alderman Smith.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. So just, based on the normal way we do business, I'm going to go back to this public forum because I do think that this is very, very important because although I said I'm going to stick to phase 1, but when we look at phase 1, 2, and 3, it becomes a very, very, very large project, an amazing project that could bring the city of Aurora to ends that none of us could ever possibly imagine. And as we have done business like this before, for example, the Route 59 corridor, different project, different type of project, the casino, we've had these forums and we've made sure that the public has had their input. I am somewhat concerned of Thursday night being enough time to make a decision for Tuesday. However, because it is phase 1, and phase 1 is pretty black and white, I suppose it can be done, but I do have to voice my concern about the public having enough time to get there, to hear about this, to know, to get there. And if we do go forward with that, I would ask that as we moved into phase 2, that it was done again the second time, and the same thing for phase 3 done the third time, because I do think a project like this that can take us to take our city to a different level, it is really important that our citizens, our residents are involved and see what we're doing so that they, one, they can't say, hey, I didn't know, where'd that come from? We'd say, well, we wanted you here, we want your input, we want you to hear what we're doing. I think we just need to stay very conscientious of that. And I do realize there was no question in that, that was just my input.
Alderman Janelle.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question. Mr. Minnick, I know we don't normally answer questions from the audience, but I too have gotten some phone calls about can the city afford this? So if you could tell us where we sit financially. I asked you the other day what our bond rating are. I know that the assessed valuation has gone up. Could you kind of just give us a minute on that?
Yeah. Yes, we have seen, and I'll address the last item first. We have seen a significant run-up in the assessment and the assessed valuation of the city. We've seen approximately a $1.7 billion increase. We're over a $5 billion equalized assessed valuation community, and that goes back to approximately the 2017 timeframe. What that has allowed us to do is also reduce the city portion of the property tax rate by approximately 20%. At the same time, we've been able to take advantage of some of the growth in the EAV and be able to afford the pension costs that we have, as well as we did operationally increase the tax levy at one particular point in time over the past year. So in other words, we've been able to raise revenue while reducing the property tax rate over that time frame. Additionally, the city is currently rated by Standard & Poor's, and we have a AA+ bond rating. We would have certainly capacity to take on the 3 phases that are before you. However, we would do a little bit more research and a little bit more of a comprehensive analysis prior to committing to the City of Light Center bond. With the increased revenue opportunities and the growth that we're going to see in the consumptive tax revenue stream, et cetera, I believe that there will be sufficient dollars there for debt service. But again, we would boil that into a strong and comprehensive financial plan that we would bring before you.
Alderman Les, you had a question?
Chair, I'll make it a short question and a short comment. One goes to the larger plan, which I heard a number of 120 million to 125 in finance. Does that cover just?
So what are we talking about? Phase 2?
Phase 2, phase
So
3.
right. So right now we're just talking about phase 1. So we're not we haven't gotten to the financial breakdown in phase 2 and phase 3. We'll come back before the city council on that. So what's your question about phase 1? Because you already gave a comment, so I'll let you ask a question.
Well, I was going to say in response to what Alderman Donnell had asked about our financial capability.
Go ahead, ask your question, brother.
And just does the 120 cover just the Center of Light Center? Does it cover the parking garage next to it? Not the parking garage discussed tonight. But
So let me clear that up, Alderman. And as I responded to you earlier and to all the aldermen, the 120 to 125, we were giving basically an estimate of magnitude. It's still being finalized. So it's in that ballpark. But that was not meant to be an all-inclusive number, and that did not include any new parking garage that is planned down the road for the River North District. So
Riverfront North.
Excuse me, Riverfront North. I get that wrong every time.
We don't wanna
Thank you.
steal from Chicago.
And then I just wanted to weigh in and say.
Well, hold on. You already gave your opinions. We're not going to keep going back and forth. So does anybody else have any other questions? Alderman Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, the whole casino is rented for $14,000 per month. Sorry, whole parking lot.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
So the whole parking lot is leased to casino for $14,000.
That is
per
correct. They're
month.
leasing that valet deck for approximately $14,000 per month. Yes.
When does that lease end?
It ends. It will end after they're going to vacate prior to that lease ending by just a few months. It's plus or minus a few. Sometime in 26, it's supposed to. The lease is supposed to end, and I think they're moving early 26. Is that right?
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So when we calculate the rates, which we haven't calculated right now, how do we make sure that we at least get $14,000 per month or over?
I mean, I believe that's going to go into the formulation. That's going to be
Yes.
part of what we're looking at currently.
Yes.
And can we also think of options like partially leasing to some organization and then?
Sure, and I
leave
think
the
we're
rest
going to
for
have to be
valet?
careful not to overextend ourselves because of the development that's coming. So I would hate to have a long-term lease, but then when the new development comes where the current casino is, we're going to have some flexibility and available spots. But Mayor, if I can just address
Go ahead.
the 13.8 million. As I said at Finance, that number was not pulled out of thin air. That number is based on the actual financial need of ACA to become sustainable for the short term, meaning the rest of 24 and all of 25. So the challenge for staff was, how do we get something back that has value to go along with the value we're getting from the Stope Island Theater and the Riverwalk, specifically the Riverwalk. So the fact is, taking it now is important because that's the return back to get to the 13.8 million. Otherwise, you're giving them 3.8, and we would have to rework this entire thing, and I'm not sure we could make this three-phase viable. So there is a method to the madness, so to speak, of doing it now rather than a later phase.
So there's been a number of questions asked, and we have some information that needs to be provided. We're going to put this on unfinished, provide that information as Alderman Barrero pointed out, and some other, I'm sorry, Alderman Buck?
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, because I know all the aldermen are trying to turn their brain into calculators tonight. I'm trying to do that myself. But with the, in Dave Debo's language, the gap, portion of the gap, I believe, in our discussions, is because River Edge will be dark next year. So when we're looking at, this is going to make up 24 and all of 25, we will not have that revenue source from River Edge, other than Crystal Center Market.
Correct.
Okay,
You are
both
correct.
24 and 25, we're having that, but we will not have any revenue from
River Edge Park.
River Edge Park.
Correct.
Next year.
ACA will not, and we will
Yes,
not.
ACA, yeah,
Yes.
I say us, ACA, yes. So, of course, that's part of what needs to be made up.
Yes.
Okay.
But remember, Alderman, too, in the River Edge Park expansion discussion, a lot of the same benefits that we're saying we will see from this phase plan will come from the expansion of the park, namely becoming way more competitive, being able to attract because of the improvements to back of house, front of house. And I know there's been a lot of, I'll call it negative bashing of cover bands and the like, but right now, given the competition and the limitations of the park, this past Saturday was Tusk, one of the top Fleetwood Mac cover bands in the country. We had over 5,000 people there, and downtown was rocking along with all the other things that were going on Saturday. So we're very confident that with what we're doing at River Edge Park, so being dark is the cost short-term to get the park where it should be and actually not interfere with Kindle Market, which last year brought in over 200,000 people. And the expectation this year for Kindle, because they are closing Wrigley and they're expanding to more booths, we expect a massive increase in Kindle visitors. Ask Two Brothers what they think about Kindle Market. Ask Tap House and everybody else in the downtown. There's a massive spin-off from them coming.
All right, we'll put this on unfinished, and we'll revisit, and I'm sure there'll be more questions and comments.
Mayor, I apologize.
Go
I
ahead.
forgot Court Carlson. We did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Court, you can come up and give a
My
quick presentation,
apologies.
Court.
Thank you for that strategic head nod, Alderman Donnell. So, Court.
Sorry
my
about that,
apologies.
Court. Go ahead,
Thank
brother.
you, Mayor and Council, very much for letting me speak briefly on the visitor economy for Aurora and the Aurora area. Just on a high level, in 2023, the economic impact of tour and travel on the Aurora area was $274 million. And of that, over $13 million is generated in local tax receipts for our participating communities from the visitor economy. This is not everybody. This is the visitor economy into our region, and we support over 3,000 jobs based on our visitors to our region. Our office alone, our sales impact for 2024, for FY24, was $4.5 million on the region. And our leisure marketing estimated impact through our office was $5.56 million, bringing people into the region who's going to spend money and visit. A little bit closer to home, here with ACA and Paramount, we ran a Paramount campaign, a digital campaign for the Paramount Theater in our 22-23 fiscal year. And this is a campaign that reached only those visitors traveling 50 miles or greater to come to Aurora and Paramount. Not the local visitor. This is 50 miles or greater coming in. Our campaign had an impact of over $1.4 million. A $500,000 impact just on the downtown alone, and approximately 400 room nights were generated through that one season campaign based around the Paramount series for Broadway. And for our Aurora branding campaign, which we ran in 23 and 24, again, reaching that audience 50 miles or greater outside of our local area. A campaign impact of $4 million in visitation spending to Aurora, and over 22,000 visitors to the city just through that one marketing campaign that we did digitally through our platform. And generated nearly 1,000 hotel room nights from our branding campaign for the city of Aurora. So we are a non-traditional destination. People have a reason to come to Aurora or to come to our destination. They don't just show up for no reason. And Paramount and the ACT facilities are a huge portion of why people are coming to Aurora and to the Aurora area to visit. And that helps us also sell our destination when it comes to meetings, conventions, sporting tournaments. They want to know, what else can we do when we have downtime, when our parents have some free time and their kids aren't participating at the complex? What else can we do? This is what helps build a destination and makes us more attractive to those tournaments, to the meeting planners, and to the conference planners when they're choosing a location to bring their business. So it's a snowball effect. What Paramount does impacts everybody on a regional level and helps drive that $274 million in visitor spending to the Aurora area. So.
And that's per year?
Yes. Well, that was for 2023.
Gotcha.
And it's grown considerably. I think in 22 it was like 264, 265. So we have grown considerably in the last fiscal year.
Court, can I take, is that information that you provided to us very good information? Is it possible you can put it in some email form, and so we can put it on Legistar and have it part of the presentation for when we speak on this again next Tuesday?
Yep, I can certainly do that. Very easy
Thank
to
you.
do that.
And,
It's
and
all
maybe
good
if you can come back and talk to us a little bit more next week as
Yeah,
you provide
I'd
that
be happy
information.
to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, this is going to go on unfinished. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is 24-0653, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Humana to administer a Medicare Advantage plan for Medicare-eligible retirees for the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025.
Consent.
Unfinished.
Unfinished.
This is the same type of, same information as item 604.
So you're going to provide more, same information needed that on 604 that you can provide to all the aldermen based on the question that Alderman Barrow asked. Thank you.
Okay, and the last item is 24-0654, resolution authorizing renewal of benefit consulting services with Assured Partners, formerly Group Alternatives Incorporated, for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2027. The three-year contract is for $52,500 per year, which is the same amount as the previous three-year contract.
Consent.
With no objections, item going consent.
And Mr. Mayor, that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Thank you very much, Chairman Seville. Can you give the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The PHS&T Committee met on August 27th, 2024. We had two items on the agenda. The first one is 24-0639, a resolution to approve a rental agreement with East Aurora School District 131 for the City of Aurora's Youth Subdivision Services Subdivision.
Consent.
This is for transporting a portable soccer field that we have. If anybody's not seen the soccer field, it's 69 feet by 43 feet, and it's a steel structure with netting. It's for a lease of September 16th to the 30th. This is for Rollins Elementary School, and the school board will be voting on this September 9th.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Buck?
Thank you. So regarding the soccer, we talked about this when we got them originally and how we're going to use them. Hopefully, we talked about in the future, hopefully getting to use them in all 10 wards. So I wanted to see what the vision was for 2025. 2024 is done. So how we're looking in the future.
Yes, Simon Rodriguez, Youth Services Manager. Great question, Alderman. So as you know, or if you're not familiar, our portable soccer field up until this moment has only been at city properties. We did that from a liability perspective, but also just to test the waters out. Much easier for us to, our parks team and our team, to maintain that. This is the first year where we're looking at placing our soccer field, our property, on non-city property. That is the agreement that you have in front of you with East Aurora. Our goal this year, to start small, as I did send this out in an email, hopefully everyone received it, was to pilot it at our two largest school districts. So we did offer it to both East Aurora School District as well as West Aurora School District. And based on the terms that we provided, where we worked with legal, East Aurora did accept our terms, but West Aurora did not. Our goal, to answer your question, for 2025 and beyond, is to grow to different school districts, including 204 and 308 schools that are located in Aurora. We find that families go to, especially the families that live close to schools, go to a lot of the parks and the amenities that are near there, so we want to capitalize on the families that are already utilizing those spaces. So that is our goal for moving forward, is to provide this to the other school districts in highly populated areas so we can get more use out of it.
Okay, just a follow-up on that. This way schools are made up sometimes. Are we also looking at possibility of partnering with our our park districts? So Fox Valley Park District and other park districts?
Yes. We actually have had that conversations already with the Fox Valley Park District. I think right now we're just trying to work on terms of agreement of placing, again, our property on their property.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this bill? None? All right,
Consent.
no objections, item going consent.
Okay. And the next one, 24-0642. This is a resolution authorizing the Community Services Department to accept the donation of a refrigerated vehicle. Factor in the Fifth Ward is donating this brand-new truck. They will also be assisting with the food. The city plans on using this in areas that we have currently gaps in food coverage. Also, it'll be probably used once a week and for special events. And staff is here to answer any questions you might have.
Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer, joined by Kathy Watson, our Assistant Corporation Counsel. So we are still working out the details of how we're going to use this very generous donation. The council asked, or the committee asked, and what you have on the screen and on your Legistar is the van specs. It's a van, not a refrigerated truck. So let's be clear about that. And then it is gently used. It's in excellent condition. What you see here is the base. The team with Factor and our communications marketing are working on the wrap, what it will look like. It's about a 6 to 8 week process from approval, hopefully by City Council, to when we will accept delivery. So we can answer any questions you might have.
Question? Alderman Franco.
So you said it's not a refrigerated vehicle?
It's not a refrigerated truck, it's a refrigerated van.
Okay, all right, because I thought
think,
you were eliminating the word refrigerated, but okay, that's fine.
No,
Yeah, you're just looking at the type of vehicle it is.
Truck and van,
Okay.
it's a van.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Consent?
No objection, I'm going consent.
And that's the report, Mayor, from the PHS&T.
Thank you very much. Chairwoman
you.
Garza, can you give the Infrastructure and Technology Committee report, please?
Yes, Mayor. We met on August 26. The first item is 24-05AA, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to purchase access control device from Sintel Solutions LLC, 2021 Oriola Road, Aurora, Illinois, 6502 for $217,113.50.
Unfinished for the next three items.
Well, let's take them one at a time, unfinished.
Next item, 24-0593, a resolution requesting approval of the addendum to the existing network infrastructure managed services contract for Sintel Solutions, 2021 Oriola Road, Aurora, Illinois, 60502.
Unfinished. Next one.
Next item, 24-0594, a resolution requesting approval of the addendum to the existing preventive maintenance in support of the city-wide security CCTV cameras contract from Sintel Solutions LLC, 2021 Oriola Road, Aurora, 60502.
Unfinished. Next item.
Next item, 24-0621, a resolution to award a contract to Mardam Construction, Inc. to the bid amount of $1,081,649 for the 2024 bridge rehabilitation project.
No objections, item going consent.
And they conclude the meeting, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Can we have the temporary Rules Administration Procedure Co-Chair Franco give the RAP Committee report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Rules Administration Procedure Committee met on August 20th, 2024, and reviewed the following items. 24-0579, a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Andrea Rios McMillan to the Civilian Review Board.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
And 24-0618, a resolution approving the appointment of Michael Smith to the Aurora Education Commission. Dr. Smith is the superintendent of District 129.
Consent.
No objections, item going consent.
And Mr. Mayor, that concludes the RAP Committee report.
Thank you very much. That concludes our committee reports. There is no need for new business. We do have a staff report this evening. Mr. Ragona and Mr. Ramirez are in the room with us, Community Services Department. We're happy to hear what you have to say on affordable housing, brother.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Tonight we're going to be talking about the City of Aurora's affordable housing strategy. So before I begin on today's agenda, I do want to thank several divisions that helped us on this plan. I'd like to thank Planning and Zoning, Senior Disabilities, Youth Services, Equity, and inclusion, innovation, specific members of our community development staff, including Eamon Monroe, Adam Grubbs, and Vivian Ramirez, who are sitting up front tonight, as well as our nonprofits, community members, elected officials, and developers. So tonight, we're going to be talking about what exactly is affordable housing, the state of affordable housing in Aurora, our methods of data collection and analysis, recommendations, next steps, and finally, we'll open the door up for questions and discussion. So the big question is, what is affordable housing? And I'm going to read directly from the slide. Housing is considered affordable when rent or mortgage plus utilities is no more than 30% of a household's gross income. I think what's important here is to highlight the words gross. It's not the after taxes, after health insurance, after retirement, after everything else on your check. It's the amount before all of that. Another amount that people, I think, forget about is the utilities as well. So we're looking at gas, electric, and your water. One other utility that is not factored in, which probably should be now that we're in 2024, is broadband and potentially cell phones as well. This number has changed over the years. So in the 1940s, it was only 20% of your gross income. In 1969, it then increased to 25, and the last update was in 1981, up to our 30% amount. I'll also note the fair market rent of a 2-bedroom apartment since 2015 has increased by 57%, whereas the household income has only increased by 16%. So I think in order to define affordable housing, our staff looked at different ways to classify the roughly 60,000 units in the city. We broke it into 4 major groups, the first being subsidized housing, followed by public housing, market rate affordable housing, and then market rate housing. So let's take a look at these different categories. So the first one, subsidized housing. This is housing that has a subsidy or a capped rent to ensure the household's monthly payment remains affordable. And this is generally determined by household income. So Clayton Muhammad mentioned Lincoln and Todd. This would fit in subsidized housing. The Aurora Arts Center, St. Charles Place, these would be classified as generally subsidized housing. So for public housing, this is going to be property owned and managed by the Aurora Housing Authority, in which, again, renters pay 30% of their gross income towards rent to maintain an affordability. They also receive a utility allowance as part of that. The third classification is market rate affordable housing. So this is going to be housing that is an affordable monthly payment determined by local market conditions. This housing is generally, when looking for renters, 60% of your area median income, and for our homeowners, it's going to be 80%. This is housing that is completely determined by the local market conditions. There are no subsidies in this. There are no rent caps. It's going to be driven by your supply and demand, your utilities, property tax rates, your ability to buy a home, so the required down payment assistance, interest rates, things like that. When you factor all of that in, that's where we get our market rate affordable housing. And then the final piece is everything else. So this is going to be all other housing options that would be considered unaffordable for households earning less than 60% for our renters, and then 80% for our homeowners. So let's take a look and see how much we actually have of each. So the first piece, subsidized housing in Aurora. This is the one that's going to have your rent caps, paying a certain percentage of your income, subsidies, things like that. There's approximately 1,654 units in the city of Aurora, and that's out of 58,838. So just a very small piece. I'll also note subsidized housing is not forever. So if you have a IDA tax credit deal, there are certain lengths of affordability, generally 15 or 30 years. After that, the developer, the owner, doesn't necessarily need to extend those. So it's not, once it's affordable, it remains affordable forever. The second piece is going to be public housing in Aurora. Again, a very small percentage, so almost a little bit under 2,000 units. Public housing is split into 2 categories, so that's housing that's directly owned by the housing authority, so think of the Indian Trail properties. The biggest chunk is going to be in the form of housing choice vouchers, and these are given to income qualifying households that can take that voucher and go anywhere in the city, with some exceptions. The next piece, market rate affordable housing. So around 13,000 or so out of our 60,000 total units. Again, as I mentioned, these are driven by local market conditions. So as interest rates potentially go down, that could, on the fly, increase the rate of affordability in the city. However, when you start moving the calculation around, that could also increase the supply or the demand of housing. We knew that utility expenses were a little bit more expensive a few years ago. If utility expenses go down, that could drive and increase the amount of affordable housing. So anytime you tinker with the formula, that could change. And as the years go on, if more people are moving to the city, that could create more demand and supply. And this calculation could change year on year as new data becomes available. And then everything else is going to go into our market rate housing. So this is 72% of the homes is qualified as market rate housing. So again, 60% area median income for our renters. This is out of their market. For our 80% area median income for home buyers, they're unable to afford 43,837 units. So when you factor all of that in, we're looking approximately 1 in 3 units of the city's housing stock of 60,000 is affordable. So as you see, the two biggest pieces of the pie, almost 94%, are going to be driven by market conditions. If economic development increases, people are increasing their wages faster than the rent limits are going up, and housing prices remain stable, the red piece of the pie is probably going to get a little bit bigger. If the economy potentially crashes, wages go down, but the price of rent and the cost of homes remains the same, then the blue is probably going to be increased, making the city a little bit less affordable. Subsidized housing and public housing probably isn't going to change too much, but like I said, subsidized housing isn't forever. As contracts expire, unless they're renewed or new additional affordable housing is brought in to replace those, there's a chance that that could be reduced. On the public housing side, that is generally determined by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and congressional appropriations. So here's a few examples of affordable housing. This first one here is scattered sites, so you can do affordable housing in a few different ways. I mentioned the Aurora St. Charles Senior Living Center. That's a unique one because it's subsidized housing, market rate affordable housing, as well as market rate housing. So in this development, they combined 3 of our 4. We have the Artisan Loft, which we're back in 2019, which we talked about a little bit tonight. And then tomorrow we have the ribbon cutting for the Lincoln and Todd apartments. And for $14.49 through public housing, an additional 70 units of senior affordable housing will become available as part of our stock. So do we need more? I think that is a pretty good question. We took a look at our 211, and 4 out of every 10 calls are for housing and shelter. And within that, we have rent assistance, 40%. We have our low-cost housing, 1 in every 4 of those calls, and then our shelters as well. So is more needed. Before we get to that, we did want to take a look at 2 side-by-side budgets for a household of 5. On the left side, you can see they are paying an affordable payment based on their income. And even looking at their budget, it could be a little light. Just for example, $200 for utilities. My 2- and 4-year-old, they have the lights on the entire time, they leave the water running, and they keep the door open when the air conditioning's on. On the right side, we have a household that is paying significantly more for their housing, and we can see how that has a negative impact on their budget. They're defined as being severely cost burdened for paying more than 50% of their gross income towards their housing. On the left side, in the green, we're showing that they're paying an affordable payment of 30%. What that does is it gives you more disposable income to spend on other things, allows you to save for retirement. On the left, if they're renting, it allows them to save to potentially become first-time home buyers. And on the right side, they're one emergency away from falling behind. So if they have some medical debt, maybe a repair needed for their car, maybe they need to purchase some items for school, things like that, it's very hard for them. Less savings, less disposable income, and if they're renters, they're going to be much less likely to become a first-time home buyer. So the question becomes, how do we move forward? So the city took a three-pronged approach to kind of take a look and see what kind of data is out there, what are other communities doing through the form of a review of best practices, and then we conducted a pretty robust stakeholder engagement to see what our residents, elected officials, nonprofits, and other subject matter experts had to say. So for existing studies and literature review, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we wanted to look at local data that was available. So we relied on the most recent U.S. Census. We looked at some of our heavy hitters in planning, including Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, our Mayor's Caucus, and some of the other plans that we've completed in the past, such as our consolidated plan. As you can see, that's expiring this year. It's the last year of our plan, and we are in the process of drafting our 2025 to 2029 plan. So in that, we found three key findings: comprehensive development approaches, so strategies to encourage mixed use and mixed income and transit-oriented development, while also being sustainable. Oftentimes, if you concentrate all of your affordable housing in one development, the first few years are great, but once things start breaking and the cost to fix those and just operate sometimes is more expensive than keeping up with the allowed rents. And you oftentimes have a negative cash flow or a crunch where there's a need for an investment. If you can spread that out through market rate and low-income units in the same development, you can rely more on the market rate rents to create a more sustainable path. Second item, preservation and enhancement of housing stock. Preserving existing housing and prioritizing affordable units. As I mentioned, we have 60,000 units already, so if we can make more of them affordable or preserve them in addition to new developments, that's going to increase the quality of our stock. And the last one, partnerships and collaborations. So partnerships with community-based groups, nonprofits, regional partners, and housing authorities to streamline coordination and maximize resources. I think if we look at small wins, small developments, medium-sized developments, and large developments, there's a lot of different partners and there's a lot of different resources out there. And one item that I didn't mention was trying to leverage our utilities such as NICOR and ComEd, because they do offer resources as well for energy efficiency, which can sometimes be expensive. So moving on to the National Review of Best Practices. We did a nationwide search at the beginning. We didn't put in any inputs. We were just searching to see what kind of strategies were out there. We came up with 100 and then started cutting it down to look for solutions that might fit Aurora's current market. We then, again, eliminated that if we have policies and programs already in action. We did hold on to a few of those to see if we could enhance our current programs. And then we eliminated the ones that were problems we do not need to be solved, such as earthquake preparedness, things like that. So the main findings to explore here was to establish a city affordable housing fund. Many communities did this differently, but oftentimes it's not with federal funding, so you're able to get around some of the requirements and red tape and design some different types of programs. Incorporate mixed income development, which we talked about in the first prong. Landlord incentives. This was a big one that we saw quite a bit across the country. We're finding that it's hard to rent an apartment sometimes. If you're paying $1,500 for rent and they need 2 months of security deposit, first and last month, and potentially a pet fee, you're looking at $6,500. Oftentimes, some of our most vulnerable clients have had issues even getting an apartment. So think of someone who maybe had an eviction 4 years ago, fell on hard times, and was able to come back. They're always going to be last when a credit report is done, and they're not going to be able to get that apartment. Think of someone who maybe had some criminal activity 10 years ago. If they pull a criminal report, that's always going to come up. It's going to be just as hard for them to get that. We did talk to Hesed House, and they mentioned that 50 to 70% of their clients work. But when they put that on an application, oftentimes they're going to be left or put to the bottom of the list. So if there's opportunities for us to partner with our landlords, provide some type of incentives or a few guarantees to take care of our most vulnerable, that might be a way to help those, even including some of our housing choice voucher holders it's making them very hard to rent an apartment. Last piece, increase awareness of available services and reduce stigma of affordable housing. So there are a lot of nonprofit partners out there. There is a lot of assistance out there. Certainly no one size fits all. But if we can put it out there for those in need of assistance, and we already have a program available, then that's a win for us. We can continue to look for those unmet needs, but we have a great deal of partners already. We fund them with our Quality of Life, we fund them with our CDBG, and we have some other philanthropic partners as well, such as Dunham, who funds a lot of different programs. Last one, stakeholder engagement. We knew it was important to reach out to as many stakeholders as we could to see what their thoughts are. A lot of these folks are boots on the ground, living real life stories, and that helped us shape our recommendations. So there's a couple of highlights here. We had 60 individual consultations. Some of you participated. One-on-one consultations mostly. We interviewed 59 landlords. We provided 39 stakeholders provided feedback through additional listening sessions that occurred in 2023. For some of our seniors and persons with disabilities, we sent them the survey directly through the mail. And then we had 3 listening sessions throughout the city. One on the west side, one on the east side, and then one right here at City Council. Here are other stakeholders I was talking about. We want to have a comprehensive approach because I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. On this wheel here, we have a lot of folks who are in need of different types of affordable housing and housing in general, as well as a lot of our partners. So we have senior renters, low-income renters, public housing residents, domestic violence survivors, veterans, and many others. We also plugged in every single piece of data that we were able to capture and put it into this little house cloud here. As you can see, the big one is affordable, but some of the other ones that stick out, public programs, seniors, rental units, SAFE, landlords, supportive services, incentives, and then transitional and a few others. So the keys from our stakeholder engagement, affordability challenges and housing availability in terms of rental units and homeowner costs. That was the big one. Everyone just said everything is expensive today. Groceries are expensive, gas is expensive, housing is expensive, and it seems like it keeps going up. The second point here, the need for city programs that provide rent assistance, collaboration with landlords, and financial incentives for property rehabilitation and home ownership. So the city does a little bit of this, but I think that we can potentially expand. And then the last one, the need for specialized housing, including family-sized apartments, workforce housing, and some others. So as I mentioned, with the wheel, there is a lot of need out there, and there's a lot of different need out there. So moving forward to our recommendations here, we wanted to try and be as concise and comprehensive as possible, but also not put forth too many recommendations. So we split it up into 3 major groups, the One Aurora platform, first being to optimize, navigate, and finally empower. We originally started with 23 recommendations and then cut that down to 9 and then prioritize those in each of the 3. So the first one for optimize, recommendation number 1, support the development of mixed income units to expand affordable housing opportunities to increase long-term sustainability. Recommendation number 2, utilize public land and underutilized property to expand affordable housing opportunities by creating a land bank. We'd be looking for the highest and best use of specific properties throughout the city. Recommendation number 3, enhance the city's current single-family rehabilitation programs to preserve housing and promote aging in place. As I mentioned, we've got 60,000 units already. Many of these are over 100 years old. So if there's an opportunity to preserve and increase the affordability of the units we got, I think that's a win. Another important note on that, 1 in 5 residents in the United States will be 65 by 2030. So we really want to promote aging in place. Certainly there are lots of different ways for seniors to do that, but if they can stay in their homes and we can put in some of those recommended ADA accessibility improvements, we definitely want to give them that opportunity so they don't have to move out. So for Navigate, recommendation number 1, and this would be our highest priority in the Navigate section, educate and inform stakeholders about local programs, services, data trends, and the importance of affordable housing in Aurora. Recommendation number 2, leverage multiple funding sources, partners, and solutions for affordable housing activities. So as I mentioned, if we have a small developer for small scattered site, as well as a maybe multi-million-dollar development. We really want to look at those and try and come up with as many solutions as we can. And then number 3, create a community resource coordinator position at the city to assist residents in need. We're not looking to duplicate anything, but we want to try and warm transfer our residents when they're in need. And I want to highlight the warm transfer, because oftentimes filling out a request for benefits can be very difficult sometimes. You need specific paperwork. Sometimes you may not speak the language. Some of our folks may not be able to read and write, so we really want to help them when we can, and then if we can't, find out the person, whether that's at a nonprofit, a state agency, a national agency. We want to get in touch, and we want to make sure that they get the help they need. We can also track and figure out, where there may be continued unmet needs in the city, rather than sort of transferring them on to the next step. And then lastly, empower. So we want to establish an Aurora Affordable Housing Fund to preserve and expand affordable housing opportunities. The city does receive as an entitlement Home Investment Partnership Program funds, as well as Community Development Block Grant. CDBG is down 23% since 2019. Our Home Investment Partnerships funding is down 33% since it peaked in 2022. As we know, the cost of doing business has gone up since 2019 and 2022, so our impact with these funds is being reduced each year. Additionally, these are federal funds, so there are significant strings attached. Oftentimes, we can't go over a certain income level, and what we're finding is the folks who are just above that income level are looking to maybe take the next step in their life, but they can't. They can't make that step. So the folks behind them have less choices to then make their next step. Recommendation number 2, provide landlords with training opportunities and incentive programs to enhance the housing stock and assist current and future tenants. I think we covered that one pretty good earlier. And then number 3, enhance down payment assistance program to increase home ownership. The city has a very small down payment assistance program. Given the increase in interest rates and cost of property and the max limits that we can assist, we have only assisted, I believe, 1 household. We've had to deny several, and many we've talked to them and just within a few minutes let them know we weren't going to be able to assist based on the high cost that they were going to be taking on that the bank was going to allow. If we can potentially retool and enhance our down payment assistance program, we might be able to help not only those who are at that 80% or less, which the feds allow, but maybe even increase that up to 100 or up to 120 of the median family income so they can take that next step. And then the folks at the 80% will have maybe a little bit more stock to potentially take a look at. So the next steps, we're at step 1. We're finalizing our proposed plan, and we'll be adopting that here shortly. Number 2, confirm, we do want to do some further research on our recommendations, which will help us develop our policies and procedures, and then additionally research funding opportunities for each outcome. Community development has found, I think, at least 2 or 3 in the last 2 weeks to potentially increase the amount of funds the city has for these types of programs in the millions. And then number 4, implement. So whether that is designing a request for proposal for a specific property or releasing our policies and procedures and doing a call for our residents, that would be step 4. And then our goal would be to come back in spring 2025 and report back. I imagine all these recommendations will be at various stages. We'd like to report on the data that we've captured and then maybe some next steps or even, redefining some of our recommendations if we're finding that in further confirming and developing, there might need to be a need for a change. So with that, thanks for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Franco.
Thank you for that detailed and wonderful presentation. Really gave a lot of information. It was really good. Thanks for the team also. So with this, do we know this is a national problem? And I know what we're trying to do. We always have done a good job with this. Do we know what our neighboring towns, what their affordable housing numbers are, what they're doing? Because I have always thought that while we do a good job, we're not doing enough as a region, and I didn't know if there was a regional effort in addition to what we do for all this, because I just think it's a big picture thing that Aurora shouldn't be on an island doing it all themselves. So I'm just kind of wondering what you know about neighboring communities.
Certainly. So we took a look at the 4 different types. We looked at what surrounding communities are doing in terms of public housing. Some have no public housing. Some only have housing choice vouchers. So it was a little bit different. I think Joliet had twice the limits or the numbers that we had. When it comes to subsidized units, we also took a look at that. For example, I think Naperville was around 600, whereas we were at 1,500. We tried to keep this as Aurora-centric as possible to determine what our current state of affordable housing is. I agree it's a national problem, and we want to look at our surrounding communities to see, what plans they have in place. But for the purposes of our plan, we really wanted to keep this Aurora-centric.
Right, and we never had any talk with the county about making at least a county thing. And I know we do a wonderful job, and we'll probably be the lead on all this, but I always think that the burden for everybody in the country should be on everybody in the country, not just a few isolated areas. So that's why I was always wondering if we could get a regional group together and say, listen, I know what Aurora's doing, but everybody's got to step up their game around because the county or the Chicagoland area is not doing enough as a whole. So I didn't know if we ever get into that, or that was going to be talks later on and we get a bigger picture type of thing, whether it be through CMAP or whoever it is.
Certainly, and we have regional discussions. Kane County is their own entitlement, so they design their own 5-year plan. They receive their own affordable housing dollars. I think the key here is 94% of our housing stock is driven by market conditions. So if we can improve our jobs at the same clip that property values are potentially increasing, if we can get more income on top of that, then that will naturally increase the supply of affordable housing. There's lots of variables that we can't control, but that 6% of the public housing and the subsidized housing, that's guaranteed affordable housing.
All right, thank you.
And let me jump in there. I think there was a misconception, and there has been in Aurora for a number of years, that we catered and we had an overabundance of affordable housing. So when we had Chris break down what exactly was the definition of affordable housing, subsidized, public, affordable, but market rate and then market rate, we saw that actually if you take the 3% of 3% of public housing, 3% of subsidized, that's only 6% of all of our housing that's really affordable housing that gets some type of assistance. The rest of it's all run by the market. And we saw with the senior estates on the west side and the Rural Housing Authority that they have about 50 residences, 1,000 people signed up within 48 hours to get housing. And these are for seniors. So if you look at our baby boomers, which are all aging at the exact same time, and not all of them have 401ks, and not all of them have pensions, and for some reason, and we know Social Security isn't gonna cut the bill. What do we do to make sure that we don't have a large part of our population become homeless in the next couple of years? And that's why there has to be a focus on affordable housing, and that's why we broke it down into what exactly affordable housing is, so there's not the misconception that we're overrun with affordable housing in the city of Aurora, because we're clearly not. We're a market rate city. Even though we're a blue-collar city, we don't have a large amount of affordable housing. We have to focus a little bit more. So although we have this presentation today, Chris's team and Vivian and everybody that's working, Amy and folks are going to consistently work on what we need to do to expand that and protect our residents. And then hopefully a lot of them can age in place, as Chris pointed out, but those that can't, what can we do to ensure that they have the appropriate housing, and we're looking out for all of our folk. Alderman Mesiacos.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we now agree this is an important topic. I appreciate some of this data here that you provided for us. Just one question real quick. Your 211 slide, it shows Kane, Kendall, and Will. Does that include DuPage, or is that something totally different that maybe you can provide for us as well?
So we looked at that. It's run by, is it Fox Valley United Way? Okay, so we can certainly provide that. I think for the clarity of the slide, we didn't want to put up a side-by-side of a different region of the community, so we wanted to focus on the 211 slide that we showed tonight. The numbers were very close and almost identical in some of the categories, but we could certainly provide that.
Yeah, I tried to go on here and on this 211 website, and I don't know if I had much success for first time trying to figure it out myself.
We can
had
certainly
some
follow up.
challenges, but I didn't know if that list had due page, it just didn't show it or not.
We
I
can provide
appreciate
that
that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Seville.
Yes, Chris, you and your staff, I think, should be commended for doing this. I know this was a lot of hard work, and we appreciate the effort. I think this is a very worthwhile study. My question is, you mentioned the executive summary. The last time something like this was done was 2012. And I was just curious, what was the percentage of affordable housing back then as compared to today, analysis speaking?
So I don't think they provided an exact number in 2012, but for this study, we calculated it a different way. So I wouldn't want to compare it to the 2012 numbers. They didn't use the subsidized housing, public housing, market rate affordable, and then market rate categories. So it would be comparing apples to oranges, at least in the way that we calculated things.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Lesh.
I'll try and keep it very brief. The first question is just clarity. The public housing, you mentioned just under 2,000 units, 1943. Is that units or is it units plus vouchers?
So that is units plus vouchers.
Okay.
So the vouchers is around 1,500, and then the public housing units, so those that are owned and managed by the housing authority, is around 500.
Okay, and then my final question is maybe for the mayor, the path as this plan moves forward, is that going to move through RAP or PHST, or as it moves through the process?
It'll come through the city council process as we do with any development, just like we did with Lincoln and Todd. That'll come through the process and any other affordable housing projects, and we are looking to have more coming up to ensure, we have enough housing for all of our residents here in the city of Aurora. I mean, clearly we've got plenty market rate, and this drives our economic and tax base here in the city. But we can't leave out our least fortunate, and folks that are most in need. We see with the Hesed House right now that people are actually living there but getting up and going to work every day. Why? Because they don't have enough to afford an actual home themselves. But if we can provide that opportunity at a rate that folks can afford, then we'll have less people being homeless, and we'll be looking to a future where we have less folks being homeless.
Certainly.
So yes, to answer your question, it will be coming through city council as all those projects do.
And Alderman, the 5-year plan that I referenced, that will also come through City Council. We're projecting probably mid-January is when we'll present the findings, which has a housing component, but is a little bit more comprehensive as well. So we'll be bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, kind sir. Very good presentation. Let's give him a round of applause. All his team, Vivian and team, Amy. Guys did a very good job, and look forward to seeing how we continue to progress. There is no further business that needs to come before the city council. There's been a motion to adjourn by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Brandon Tolliver. All in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned.